Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday with Terry. My name is Terry. I'm your friend. I'm talking to you live from the great state of Texas, right here in Austin, Texas, where the sun is hot, that barbecue is sweet, and all the drinks are free when you're going to hang out with me. I want to talk about being a phenomenon today. It's how can you become a phenomenon? I had a friend of mine, a mentor of mine, that when he talked with me, he would always tell me everything was fantastic. That's how he said, that is fantastic, Terry. He goes, that's fantastic. And just when he would talk to me, he got me excited and motivated because he would use that, that's terrific, or that's fantastic. He uses these words, that were very motivational. And I want to use the word today with my listeners called phenomenon. Phenomenal. Isn't it phenomenal? Have you ever had anything happen to you in your life that was phenomenal? Have you ever seen a phenomenon? And so the first thing I do, I'm going to go to Webster's dictionary and I'm going to try to define what is a phenomenon. So I wrote it down here. A fact or an occurrence or circumstance observed or an observable circumstance. Have you seen a phenomenon? Could be nature, right? Nature, a windstorm, a tornado, a hurricane, things flying around. I mean, that's a tidal wave. Oh, it's a phenomenon, right? Or whatever, shooting stars. It's kind of phenomenal, right? It's phenomenal. Number 2 in Webster said something that is impressive or extraordinary. Extraordinary is out of the ordinary. It is extraordinary. It's not something you see every day. You get store blind to these things you see every day. This is something that's extraordinary. Have you ever met somebody that was extraordinary? My wife, when I met her, she was extraordinary. And I said, that's going to be the one. That's going to be the girl right there, right? Extraordinary. She was extraordinary. Number 3, remarkable or an exceptional person, a prodigy or a wonder. You ever see somebody and you go, wonder how they did that? Wonder how they became who they became. I wonder, I was just down in Naples last week, Naples, Florida, and I saw houses down there for, on the low side, $20 million to homes up to $55 million on the water in Naples. Phenomenal price, I would say. A phenomenal price. And I go, what are these guys doing? They're living in $50 million homes. What are they doing for work? What are they doing for income? I can't even imagine the taxes on a $50 million home. What is that like? But I'm just saying that was phenomenal for me to look those houses. I was driving on a boat down by the homes and I was on Zillow and I was looking at the houses and I was like, wow, this is phenomenal. This is a phenomenon how that happens. I want to share with you a couple stories about some phenomenal people. And I think many times we always think is, man, this has happened to somebody else, but it could never happen to me. And I think phenomenons happen because of the belief that people have in themselves. And I would ask you this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, whenever you're listening to this podcast, do you believe in yourself? And do you believe in what you're doing? Really? Do you really believe in it enough to put your own money, to put your own, dollars and cents into something? A good friend of mine over at Orange Theory, his name is Paul Ryder. He said, if it ain't making money, it ain't making sense. But I love that quote. But I always believe is, nothing is free. Nothing comes, there's no such thing as a free lunch. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of effort. Many times you have to put your own capital, your own money. But I want to share a couple of what I call phenomenal stories about some phenomenal people and how they believed in themselves in order to achieve some of those results. The first one is, I got some notes and some pictures, but Oprah Winfrey, right? I don't know if you ever studied Oprah Winfrey. Have you ever done any research on her and understand her background? But, we can go on and on about the magazines she's been in, about her weight loss programs, about the interviews that she has conducted and how she got started. But the stories that I have looked at about Oprah Winfrey was, her grandmother's dream for Oprah was for her to find some good white folks, is what she said. And her personal dream was to be the best at whatever she did. And what happened is something got a little bit bigger and something got a little bit bigger and something got a little bit bigger. And there's a whole personal story and some of the not so good things that happened to Oprah when she was young. She's talked about a lot of that. But you got to look at Oprah Winfrey and said, there's a woman that believed in herself before she became famous or before she became popular or before, I'm just telling you, the Oprah Network. I mean, you know all these things. That's a phenomena. She's a phenomenal woman. She's a phenomenal lady. The story is, and the story started by her believing in herself. The next person is a story about Jim Carrey, right? You know what, Jim Carrey, I don't know if you've heard this story or not. Maybe you have, but before Jim Carrey was famous, he would drive up, he lived in LA, he would drive up to a lookout area in LA, and he would just stand there and take time and visualize himself as a movie star. And what he did is he said, someday I'm going to make $10 million. And so he took his own personal checkbook. He didn't have $10 million, but he wrote a check out to Jim Carrey for $10 million, wrote it down, $10 million. He folded it up and he put it in his wallet. And he said, I'm going to make $10 million within the next 3 years. And literally within 3 years, in 1995, he made exactly $10 million on a movie deal. And this is the art of visualization. And, you know, you can visualize what your dinner is going to be like. You can visualize what your home is going to be like. You can visualize what your car is going to be like. You can visualize what your soulmate is going to be like. You can visualize what your career and your job is going to be like. But you got to start to think ahead and get out in front of your life and get out in front of your relationships and get out in front of your finances and get out in front of your career and start to think and visualize what is possible. What could I do? What would that look like? And you need to be detailed. And you just don't say, I want to make a lot of money. But like Jim Carrey said, I want to make $10 million on a movie deal. And in fact, he did it. And I think the other piece when you talk about phenomenal people is they never give up on themselves. They never quit on themselves. They believe on themselves. And I would tell you that as a business owner starting a business, it's hard to start a business. The hardest part is really believing in yourself enough to say, is anybody going to buy this product or this service? I remember when I started Orange Theory Fitness, I invested everything that I had. And the biggest question I had was, can we do it? And is anybody going to buy this damn thing, right? Is anybody going to buy a membership for Orange Theory Fitness? The next person I want to talk about that I believe is phenomenon is J.K. Rowling's, right? You may know that name. You may know that name, but this is a rags to riches story again. J.K. Rowling, 400 million copies of a book, 69 different languages translated, 200 countries, the fastest selling book in America, the highest grossing movie series. And she was living on food stamps and state benefits before she wrote this movie. She was on a train. She was on thinking of and she got this idea of maybe an orphan and an orphan wizard, or magician, and maybe that he goes to wizard school. And she came up with this concept called Harry Potter. Right? We all know the Harry Potter series. And, you know, you go over to Universal Studios today and they got the whole Harry Potter part of the park, right? I mean, it's amazing. She's the 12th richest woman in the UK right now. But you got to believe in yourself. And she believed in herself, and she believed that she would take the time to write the story. Be true to yourself. Writers write. Sellers sell. Singers sing. Right? We all saw Usher at the Super Bowl. Well, most of us did. 85 or 86%, right, of America was watching the Super Bowl Sunday night. Holy cow. That's a big one. But don't give up on your dream. J.K. Rowling's didn't. The other phenomenal story I want to share with you is about a guy named Ralph Lauren. You ever heard that guy's name? You ever heard of Ralph Lauren? Does anybody know how Ralph Lauren got started in the business? Built a multi-billion-dollar company. Multi-billion, not 1 million, but billion-dollar business. He started by re-racking the returns. So people didn't like what they got, and he would take them, they would bring them back, and he would be working the floor, and he'd have to put them all back on the racks. You ever see anybody like that in a department store, Nordstrom's, Macy's, Dillard's? Somebody's got to re-rack the returns, right? Or the mess that's in you try on the clothes, you don't buy them, somebody's got to re-rack that stuff. That's how Ralph Lauren started. But he had this idea that he wanted to create fashionable ties. And he created a couple, and nobody liked them, and nobody would buy them. He was told that the world was not ready for a Ralph Lauren tie. That's what he was told over and over again. Finally, he got a job, and he was provided a drawer where he could keep his ties. So if you ever go into a men's shop, right, they've got all the shirts, they got all the suits. Many times they'll have the ties out in a rack, but sometimes they'll have drawers with socks and ties in drawers. And he got one drawer that he could create his ties and put his ties in. They weren't out on the top, they were in a drawer. You had to pull the drawer out to actually see them. And so after that drawer, and he made a few sales, he went door to door trying to sell more ties to more groups until he finally got a deal at Bloomingdale's. And they offered to buy his concept of ties. And if you think about how many times did this guy get rejected, you've all heard the story of the guy that starts in the mailroom. Well, this is Ralph Lauren starting on the RERAC program. Created a multi-billion-dollar business. But he believed in himself and he believed in his concept. And now when you hear the name Ralph Lauren, we see it at the Grammys. We see it at the Oscars. What are you wearing tonight? They're wearing a Ralph Lauren. They got all these names, all these fashion designers, but Ralph Lauren is one of those. So whether it's Oprah, whether it's Jim Carrey, whether it's J.K. Rowling, or whether it's Ralph Lauren, insert your name here. Or whether it's you. Are you the next phenomena? Are you a phenomenon? Right? And isn't it true we all want a better life? I mean, we all want things to be a little bit better, a little bit more income, a little bit better relationship, a little bit better finances, a little bit nicer home, a little bit nicer car, a little bit better family time, a little bit more time on our hands to do the things that we really want. We all want for a better life. So how do you make that happen? How do you make your life phenomenal? You don't become what you want, and you don't get what you want by wishing, hoping, or sitting in a corner with your fingers crossed. It's really your belief structure and your determination and the actions that follow those beliefs and those ideas and that visualization that I talked about. Your mind is the most powerful GPS system in the world. But you got to program it correctly and get the right mindset. And what I'm suggesting is if you want to be phenomenal or you want to be a phenomenon and you've got a dream big. I've talked about dreaming big before. Get some of those dreams on a blank sheet of paper, start writing them down and start writing down what is it you want your life to look like. Because I would tell you this, there are teachers all around us in every day and every way. Our relationships can teach us something. My relationship with my wife, my relationship with my family, my relationship with my business acquaintances, my relationship with my landlords, all my relationships have the ability to teach. Most of the things that I learned in my life have been through my relationships. You've all heard it, the school of hard knocks. And what do they say? Experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. Experiences is what you get when you don't get what you want. Our bosses are our teachers. Our employees are our teachers. Our friends are our teachers. Our finances and what's happening in your bank account and your income and your expenses and the way you pay attention to that is teaching you something. It is teaching you to save more, to invest more, to cut back on spending, to spend different ways, money on different things to have different results. So if 2023 wasn't your year, maybe you learned something from that, but that's a teacher for us. And some of you may know this, or some of you may not know this. I just recently parted ways with Orange Theory Fitness. And I look back at the last 14 and a half years with Orange Theory Fitness. And I look at that as a great teacher in my life. Taking an idea or a concept and getting it off the ground, turning it into reality, building a bunch of stores in Tampa, Florida and selling them, opening up more stores in Austin and San Antonio and selling 65% of my business to a private equity firm. And then, blowing up and buying tripling the size of the company into 63 locations. And then COVID hits, right? And you can look at COVID as saying, man, it was the worst of the worst, or you could say, what an incredible learning experience that was. And look at the last 2 years or the last 3 years of going through. What did you learn going through COVID? You learned how to persevere. You learned how to not to give up. You learned how to be creative and innovative and how to do new things or how to try new things. You learned how to restart. You learned how to get back up on the horse and ride it again. There were many things that you learned. And Orange Theory Fitness for me was a home run. It was just an absolute home run. I learned so much. I made a little bit of money, and it's just a great learning experience. It made me better for my next opportunity. And I'm currently looking for the next and at the next chapter of my life and what I'm going to do for the next 10, 15, or 20 years. But I would remind us all, or ask us all, better question is, what are you being taught right now? You're probably exactly where you need to be, and you're probably learning exactly the things that you need to be learning for where you're at. And don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as a phenomenon happening before your very eyes. Get your dreams, your goals, your ideas, get them down on a paper. Look at what's happening in your life right now as a learning experience, as teaching you. What are you being taught right now that you can apply and use for your next concept, your next chapter, the next part of your life? How do you make that happen? Become phenomenal. Become a phenomena. If Jim Carrey, if Oprah, if Ralph Lauren, if J.K. Rowling can do it, if those 4 people could do it, starting from the very bottom, you too can do this. I believe in you. I've believed in you for a while. I still believe in you. Never give up. Don't let anybody sell you out on your dreams, your hopes, and your desires. Don't force it as well. Don't try to force something. Let it all happen. Let it unfold right in front of you. It'll all unfold right in front of you, I promise. Become phenomenal. My name's Terry. I'm your friend.